Hello and welcome to this week's Roundup by blockchaingamer.biz. Today is Friday, the 11th of August, and I am your host, Jenny Jordan, and with me is co-host John Jordan. Make sure you check out our website at blockchaingamer.biz and follow us on Twitter at BCGBiz. Hi, John.
Hello, how are you?
How are you? Yeah, good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. What we got for
Good.
news this week?
Yeah, so the big news really is the Nitro Nation World Tour has launched, and it kind of came a bit out of nowhere. They launched for NFT holders about a week ago, and so it's sort of an early launch, really early release, called Head Start, the Season 0, which the big sort of launch is expected later, Season 1. But you have been playing the game, and some other little family members have been playing it. Can you tell us some more?
Yeah, yeah. As you say, We've been a little bit surprised. So I was playing the initial build went out for, and should say it's through app stores now, so it's not you're not doing any weird side loading or anything. So this is just on Google Play and the App Store. And they set it up so if you had NFTs, you could sort of log in and start playing. And it was as you expect, the gameplay bit. It's a drag racing game, and all the cars and everything was in there, pretty polished. And then some of the other stuff, like particularly the clubs, which we'll talk about, which is like the guild sort of system, that was really unpolished. You could just tell that was sort of sort of placeholder sort of UI and stuff. I mean, it worked, but it just looked there's lots of sort of weird little, not weird, but there's sort of high level polish, like you can't change your username or something like that. Yeah, so everyone's player 3792YG or something, just sort of stuff that so you can see why they're saying it's a season 0. I'm sort of surprised that they've released it openly to everyone at this level, which is it's just clearly, I don't know if there's some reason they wanted to sort of go early, or whether there's something that's made them take this decision sort of now, knowing it's not in the state that they would probably want it to be. So there may be some other overarching decision, because we could compare that a little bit maybe to NFL Rivals, which is the other game from Mythical Games on the App Store, and when that's an American football game, and that's launched, and that's perfectly polished. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff still to come in there around NFTs, but that you wouldn't play that game and go, oh, and this menu looks really wrong. It's a totally polished game that you can play through, and Nitro Nation is not at that level. As you say, we've been trying to get the kids to play it, and actually our eldest has sort of pretty much burned through the first 3 categories of cars. So he's just playing as a freebie player. He's not spending any money. He doesn't have any NFTs, and he's sort of got stuck at this point where he can't upgrade his car anymore, and he can't sort of win. And I sort of had a look at it, and just because I think the game is not finished in that state, it seems very. I can't work out how we can get the resources he needs to sort of upgrade his car to keep going. So it's sort of almost a bit weird that I think because of some of the monetization stuff isn't in there, that it seems to be. I mean, maybe we're doing something terribly wrong. Could always be the case, but it just seems like unpolished. From that point of view.
Although I often find that with games that you do kind of feel encouraged to start with. You get your upgrades, you get a flow, and then you get to a stage where you sort of reach a plateau and you can't really get any further unless you pay money or.
But even in this state, if you kind of go, if we had to pay like $10 to sort of buy some, I mean, there's some resource that he has none of, that he needs some of, and neither of us have worked out how you get this resource. It doesn't really tell you that, a lot of stuff in the shop says coming soon, or it seems very much like this is a obviously there's a possibility we may be doing something wrong, but for me the bigger possibility is that bit of the game isn't implemented. It looks sort of like a not cryptocurrency, but something sort of related to the blockchain side of things. But anyway, we'll see. But other than that, I think it's interesting. So talk about the club thing. So if you to have a club, to set up a club, you need one of the NFT garages. Effectively, they call them workshops. So I have one of those, and I've set up a club. It's called TX Racers, uppercase T, uppercase X. We could only find it if we had got the case right. So I've got one of my NFT garages attached to that, and then people who don't have NFTs, like my son, can join that garage, and then that means they can upgrade their cars to a higher level than you can do if you don't have a garage. So you basically, if you're going to play this game to any, to get anywhere in this game, you have to join a club. But I think that's quite a nice sort of, I kind of feel, I feel that my NFT is being used beyond my use, and these people are getting benefit out of it. And I think that's an interesting starting point. Obviously, there's a long way to go building some economics around that.
Like paying
But
taxes.
well, yeah, not so much. No, it's not. I mean, obviously, what I think what you can do is that you can at the moment you can only attach one of these garages or work. What are they called? Workstations? I can't remember. Anyway, workstations I think they call them. But you can. I think there's various slots, so you can have you can attach more and more and more of them. So and obviously each of them they're designed in quite a complex way. So each of them has a sort of speciality in what it can do for the players and what it optimizes.
Okay.
And one of the things is you can rent out cars. So you could have. So I've got quite a nice NFT car. And I could like set that, and me being nice, I want people to use it. I wouldn't charge, maybe I charge them the minimum. If there wasn't a charge, I'd just say whoever wants to use it can use it, sort of thing. So you can sort of see that's quite interesting, and we haven't. People have spoken a lot about that in sort of NFT world and rentals and sort of stuff. But this to me at least seems like this has the potential to be the best implementation of that sort of model from a game development studio who we know are good at making games and a publisher who we know understands as much as anyone does how blockchain games work. So personally, I'm quite interested in how this stuff plays out. I'm just, so you say it's just a bit of a surprise that it's, and to be fair, they've not really pushed it in terms of, I got an email because I'm obviously on the email list. But I don't think they've done a lot of press on it. I've not seen any sort of just press people talking about it. So this is very much like a soft launch sort of thing that they are not promoting. I don't think they're not spending advertising money, getting people in there. They're just, basically seeing what the sort of core fan base are doing with it, I think.
Yeah, but that's kind of clear. They made that clear in the email as well, that this is just an early release of it. So it's not, we shouldn't see it as the sort of big launch.
Oh, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah. And we sort of joke about it as well with NFL Rivals, where they've not done a massive advertising push for that. They're waiting for the start of the American football season in September, and they keep having this figure saying, someone said at one point it's had almost 1 million downloads, and then it's sort of funny in the press. You see everyone quoting almost 1 million downloads, and it sort of becomes this sort of funny phrase, which is presumably is 1 million now. But
and on that note, we had the news this week that another one of the games we've been playing, Blast Royale, they had done over 100,000 downloads on the app stores, so that's good.
And again, it's sort of difficult to know what to make of these sort of
almost 100,000.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, in the big scheme of things, in games, 100,000, you wouldn't tell anyone that. I mean, that was seen as a bit of a failure. But obviously, from their point of view, they've not spent any marketing money, I wouldn't think, on that. And and they're sort of a small indie studio, although they have raised, a reasonable amount of money, I think 8 million, 10 million, something like that. But again, it is difficult with blockchain games to know what, because you just can't compare them to what I would call traditional games. If you're a big successful mobile game now, like a real mass market one, you're doing 50 million downloads or 100 million downloads, or at the very top end like Subway Surfers, 1 billion downloads. There's a few games now that have done 1 billion downloads. Obviously they've been out for 10 years or whatever. So so if a blockchain game, for NFL Rivals to get 1 million is actually quite a big figure. It's sort of funny they contextualize it with almost 1 million as if it obviously. Well, anyway, let's not go into that. Certainly, I think I would be very surprised if Nitro Nation over the next year doesn't do millions of downloads, because it's just a very high quality game and doesn't really mention NFTs. And people, Nitro Nation is a franchise that's been going for 10 years, and probably that has done, some of those games have done tens of millions of downloads at least. So we would expect that really.
Yeah, and as many developers keep sort of reminding, those who have been in the mobile industry before anyway, and are now doing blockchain games, keep on saying, well, look at where free to play was at the start, and sort of how messy and how kind of unstructured, and compare that to where it is now, and that we can sort of expect.
I mean, it is interesting. I'm not sure whether I like that comparison too much, but it is definitely true. I remember when Apple allowed games to put in-app purchases into their mobile games, and I was editing PocketGamer.biz then, and I knew that I think there were about 5 companies who on day one had implemented this. and I knew them all. So I dropped them all an email and just said, how's it going, sort of, after the first week. And I remember one of them, he was just like, I've sold 37 cents worth. This is ridiculous. No, in-app purchases are a disaster. Blah blah blah. And obviously that was just too early. And they were not making. They were basically doing DLC, downloadable content. So they were basically like, if you want another level, spend $1. So everyone was like, no, why would I do that? It's insane. So obviously, with a lot of these sort of monetization gameplay things, it takes time for developers to work out what people want. It takes time for the first time I spent $1 in a mobile game, I was just like, this is really weird. I've bought some gems in a game to speed something up. This is not how you play games, And then after a while, you sort of all the games are doing it, and you go, oh, it's fine. I'll spend $10 or $100 or whatever. Yeah. So there is that big educational thing, and obviously that comes with crypto as well. So there is some sort of comparison in there, and it's sort of quite a nice segue, I guess, to the interview we did, or the podcast I did with Kyu Lee from Come to Us that we ran this week. So he very much mentions that sort of stuff, because that was where actually where we first met in the free to play games space. And it was funny because Come to Us used to have in-app purchases for Korea, and this was before the App Store had in-app purchases. So they used to have to take their in-app purchases out of their games to sell them in America, because at that point you could only sell mobile games for you basically bought a game for $5, $2, whatever. There was no in-app purchases in there. It was a totally different way of making games. So interesting.
Check out that interview on our website. It's well worth a read. And we've also got another interview that went up this week with another mobile Web3 game, the roguelike Rogue Nation by Moonlit Games. So go and check that one out too.
And they're also, a mobile, they're making mobile games, and their experiences is they're German based. Their experiences making free to play mobile games. And just to finish up on Q, there was one. Often when you do these interviews, in that case it's quite a long one because I know him quite well. So it's a 40-minute long interview. It's quite hard to encapsulate, like a pithy sentence in there. But it was actually right at the end. One of the final things he said, and Come to Us is interesting because they've made a decision like a year and a half ago that blockchain is going to be really big for them, like most South Korean games companies did. And they basically said, every game we now release is going to have some blockchain in there. So it was actually quite interesting. And I didn't, when he talks about it, he said, there was internal within Come to Us. Some people didn't like that. Some developers did not want to make blockchain games. And he said, we had to be very firm as a management team. And we basically had to say to every game team out there, you have to have some blockchain in your game. Doesn't matter how big or small, you have to do this. And Come to Us, its blockchain originally was based on the Terra blockchain that obviously went horribly bust. They were South Korean, so they thought that was they did that because it was easy for them. Their lead investor into that project was FTX, who went horribly bust. And he said at that point, they did take a step back and you think, is this for us? Because we've had two massive things have gone wrong and impacted our business. And actually he said, we really realized that, actually the people we thought knew what they were doing didn't know what they were doing. We know we're good at making infrastructure for games. Blockchain is just infrastructure. It's just computers talking to each other. So they actually doubled down and they said, we'll make our own blockchain. So now they're doing their own blockchain called XPlay. And even when it comes to their big game, which is now out, Summoner's War Chronicles, one of their biggest franchises, and I said, did some people not want to put blockchain in there? And he said, yeah, of course they did. But we didn't want some people who are doing non-blockchain games and some people doing blockchain games. That just causes nightmare culture in the company. We said every game is having blockchain, and he says, it's going to take the adoption is slow. We think it's massively important for the future of gaming, just like free to play mobile is now. The free to play mobile is basically bigger than console and PC gaming put together, pretty much. Incredibly big. The growth of the games industry over the last 10 years has been from free to play mobile. Console and PC are stayed pretty much the same. It's grown a little bit, 5-10%, but mobile went from literally nothing to $50 billion or whatever it is at the moment. And they see that over the same sort of period. Very slow adoption, but they just think it's going to be it's going to be in pretty much in every game. It's in every one of their games that's coming out now.
Yeah. One other launch this week was the mech.com game. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. I only had the announcement yesterday. But can you?
Yeah.
Explain
It's not actually got, as we're recording, it's not gone live yet. So I think it's going live at 12 o'clock US time. So it's interesting. It's interesting. It's this guy Trey Smith, who's sort of a bit of a interesting character. He's sort of a very good marketing guy. But he's had quite a sort of solid career in the game space. He's had a free to play mobile studio, and he did this. He ran this game development tool studio, sort of like a. I think some pro developers were using it, but I think it's more like a for any sort of anyone who wants to make games can sort of use this sort of coding system. So I followed what he's doing because he is very good at marketing, and he sort of sits slightly outside the traditional game industry, I think. And that's interesting when those sort of people. He's very competent. But he's going to come up with something slightly different, and when you follow that project, it is the marketing is sort of on the edge of being a little bit sort of spammy, sort of shilly, and the game is this
talk about it then.
No. But when I first looked at it, I was thinking, is this guy a total scammer? Because it was at the top of the NFT boom, and he was doing all this stuff. But he's a legit guy. Been working on this game for a couple of years, and it's not a game that anyone's going to go, wow, amazing, not seen this before. But he's built like it's an ecosystem to have these little bots, these little mechs that fight each other, and they mine ore, and there's these land stuff, and because he has this history in game tools. This bit isn't going live yet, but there'll be ability for people to do user-generated content and build buildings and stuff in there. So it actually probably encapsulates a lot of the blockchain stuff. And I think because he's quite, it's his own company, he's raised his own money, so he can just do sort of whatever he wants. So I think it will be an interesting one to watch.
Yeah, cool. Sky Mavis launched their Greenlight Mavis Hub as well, which is part of the Axie Builders program. Again, sort of encouraging new early builders to bring their Axie games to the platform, and that they can be incentivized with funding and tools and just general support. And they
redesigned their logo.
Pardon?
They redesigned their logo. They've got a little clockwork Twitter.
They did, yes, they did indeed. They got still kept the blue bird, which I think is nice, considering some other people have abandoned it. But it's good. And the Ultra Arena went live this week, the esports platform by Ultra. Have you had a chance to look at that, or have you?
I haven't. No, I have to admit, I've been very busy this week. I've not looked at that one. No.
Yeah,
but they've got it's going. Yeah, they've got like this sort of a launch month, haven't they? So in August they're doing these sort of giveaways, and it's all the games are sort of traditional, Web2 games, the traditional esports games like Call of Duty and Overwatch 2 and Valorant. So you're not playing Web3 games, you're not doing anything weird there. And they're not giving away an enormous amount of money, but they're giving away some and some NFTs and stuff. So we'll see how that goes, I guess.
Anyway, I think we'll have more time to look into that later on. But that's it from us this week, I think. And we'll thank you. And bye-bye.
Okay. See you next week. Bye-bye.
See you next week. Bye-bye.